Chapter 1. The Stranger. The man next to me at the hotel bar hadn't blinked in 3 minutes. I know because I'd been counting, which says more about my night than his. "Another," I said to the bartender, sliding my empty glass forward. "Whatever's red and doesn't require me to have opinions about tannins." The bartender poured. The stranger beside me turned a 1/4 inch in my direction, the exact amount a person moves when they're deciding whether to engage or ignore. Except he moved like someone who'd been making that calculation for a very long time. "Rough day?" he said. His voice was low, unhurried, the kind of voice that suggested he had never, in his entire life, been late for anything. "Rough 14 months," I said, "but who's counting?" "You seem like someone who is, in fact, counting." I looked at him properly for the first time. Dark suit, expensive in the way that doesn't announce itself. Pale skin, not sick pale, just cool, like he'd been standing in a wine cellar. Dark hair, cut clean. Eyes that were either very dark brown or very dark something else. And they were watching me with a kind of steady attention that should have been unsettling, but was somehow the first time anyone had actually looked at me in weeks. "Are you a therapist?" I asked. "No." "Life coach?" "Absolutely not." "Good, because I'm about to say some things about my boss, and I need someone who won't try to help me reframe the experience." He lifted his glass, something amber, barely touched. "I am an excellent listener who has no intention of reframing anything." I liked him immediately, which, given my track record, probably meant he was a serial killer. But the wine was good, and the bar was warm, and my apartment was cold and empty, and I hadn't talked to a human being about anything other than quarterly reports in so long I'd started talking to the thermostat at work. "My boss," I said, "is the most inhuman person I have ever met." Something shifted in his expression. Not a smile, the suggestion that a smile had been considered and tabled for later review. "Inhuman," he said. "That's specific." "I have a list. Do you want the list?" "I have a list." "I would very much like the list." I pulled out my phone, opened my notes app, and scrolled. He watched me scroll. He watched me the way someone watches a nature documentary, with genuine fascination and absolutely no intention of intervening. Okay, number 1. His office is always cold. I don't mean air conditioning cold. I mean cold like the building itself is afraid of him. I've filed 4 maintenance requests. The HVAC team says there's nothing wrong with the system. The system is fine. His office is 10 degrees below every other room on the floor, and no one will explain why. Perhaps he prefers it. People don't prefer 60 degrees in an office. That's not a preference, that's a war crime. A war crime? Against morale. Number 2. He has never, and I mean never, in 14 months, eaten lunch. Not at his desk, not in the break room, not at a client dinner. The man does not eat. I've watched. I'm the office manager. I order the catering. He doesn't touch it. He doesn't even pretend. The stranger took a sip of his drink, set it down at exactly the same spot on the napkin. Maybe he has a specific diet. He has a specific problem with being a normal participant in human society is what he has. Number 3. He doesn't blink enough. I timed it once during a board meeting. 4 minutes. 4 minutes without blinking. You know what blinks less than once every 4 minutes? Owls. Owls and my boss. You timed his blink rate? I had nothing else to do during the meeting. He was talking about fiscal projections. Do you know what fiscal projections sound like when delivered by someone who hasn't blinked since the Eisenhower administration? Terrifying. The answer is terrifying. He was quiet for a moment. The bartender passed behind us. The stranger's eyes tracked the movement without his head turning. Just his eyes. A small, smooth shift that I noticed because I notice things. It's my curse. It's why I have a list. Go on, he said. Number 4. He once referred to the 2008 financial crisis as recent, in context, during a board meeting. He compared it to something he called the mess of 1720, which, for the record, was 300 years ago. 300 years. And then he stopped talking about it, like he'd caught himself saying something he shouldn't have. Perhaps he's a history enthusiast. He's a something enthusiast. I just haven't figured out what yet. Number 5. His hands. They don't move. Normal people fidget. They tap pens, they adjust papers, they scratch their nose during a conference call. His hands are just there, on the desk, like they've been placed by a set decorator who has a very specific vision. It's beautiful and also deeply alarming. You think his hands are beautiful? I think his hands are concerning. There's a difference. Although, I took a drink. Fine, they're also beautiful. He wears this ring, old, silver, some kind of family crest, and his fingers are very long and very still, and sometimes I look at his hands during meetings and forget what I was going to say, which is also a workplace hazard. He looked at his own hand, at the silver ring on his 4th finger. Something crossed his face. Amusement, maybe? Or something more careful. Number 6. He has never taken a morning meeting before 10. Never. Not once. I've been scheduling his calendar for over a year, and he has rejected every single meeting request before 10 a.m. I once tried to book a 9:45, and he replied, on cream-colored paper, delivered by his assistant, like we're living in a Bronte novel, that 9:45 was not yet business hours. At 9:45 in the morning. Some people are not morning people. Some people don't reply to calendar invites with handwritten notes on stationery that probably costs more than my rent. How much is your rent? In this city? Criminal. But that's not the point. The point is, his stationery smells like old books and cold stone, and sometimes I hold the notes a little longer than I should, because they smell like a place I've never been, and I can't explain why I like it. The stranger was very quiet. His hand on the bar had not moved. Number 7, I said. I once saw his eyes change color, just for a second. We were in a meeting. Someone cut their hand on a paper edge. You know, a paper cut, blood, the usual. And I looked at him and his eyes were amber, like a cat in headlights. For 1 second. Then they were normal again. And everyone else was looking at the paper cut, not at him, so no one else saw it. Just me. The stranger had gone very still. Not frozen. Still. The kind of still that was its own sentence. And the worst part, I said? I can't even hate him properly. Because once, I was working late and I walked past his office at midnight because I'd left my keys. And he was sitting in the dark. Just sitting. At his desk. In the pitch black. And I said, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. And he said, you're not interrupting anything. And the way he said it, I stared at my wine. It sounded like the loneliest sentence I'd ever heard. The bar was quiet. A jazz standard played low through the speakers. He didn't say anything for a long moment. I called him emotionally unavailable, ancient, and probably not even human, I said. To his face. Last week, during my quarterly review. What did he say? Nothing. He just looked at me. And then he signed my evaluation with a perfect score and told me to close the door on my way out. The stranger turned his glass on the napkin, one precise revolution. He sounds, he said carefully, like he doesn't know how to be what you need him to be, and has possibly never been asked. Something about that sentence landed in a way I wasn't ready for. I blinked, took a breath. Yeah, well, he could start with the thermostat. He almost smiled, not quite, The corner of his mouth moved 1 millimeter, and I would swear on my entire filing system that it was the most expressive thing his face had done all night. "I should go," I said. "Work tomorrow. The cold, inhuman boss waits for no one." "He might wait for you," the stranger said, very quietly. I looked at him. He looked at me. His eyes were very dark and very old, and for 1 second, they were amber. I was too tired and too wine-warm to process it. "Thanks for listening," I said. "You're a very good stranger." "You're not wrong." I grabbed my coat, walked out, didn't look back. The man at the bar sat for 20 more minutes. He hadn't taken a breath since she'd mentioned the paper cut. Chapter 2. Monday. Meg's phone rang at 8:49 a.m. She was on the train. It was Tom. He's smiling. Who's smiling? Sterling. He walked in at 8:47. Through the parking garage, obviously. He never uses the front entrance. I think mornings disagree with him. But 13 minutes early. And he's smiling. People smile, Tom. Not this man. This man has never smiled. This man doesn't know what smiling is. He walked past Steve in the lobby and said, "Morning, Gerald." Steve's name isn't Gerald. I know Steve's name isn't Gerald. Steve dropped his coffee, like dropped it, on the floor, because Victor Sterling was smiling at him and calling him Gerald, and the universe stopped making sense. Tom, calm down. I am calm. I am the calmest person in this building, which is not saying much because Priya is already updating her resume. Meg hung up, walked faster. She arrived at 9:02, stopped 2 steps past reception. Tom was standing behind his desk, clutching his phone like evidence. "It's worse than I said on the phone," Tom whispered. He walked through the open plan, still smiling. 3 interns made eye contact with each other. One of them mouthed, "I think he's going to fire us all." Nobody is getting fired because the CEO smiled. You haven't seen the smile, Meg. It's not a normal smile. It's a smile that doesn't know how smiling works, like it's his face's first day on the job. Meg put down her coffee, looked toward the corner office. The door was open, which was unusual. Through the glass wall, she could see Victor Sterling sitting at his desk, and this couldn't be right. He was typing an email. Not unusual in itself, except that Mr. Sterling had, in 14 months of Meg's tenure, never sent a single email. He communicated through handwritten notes on cream-colored paper, delivered by his assistant Prentice, who had the demeanor of a man perpetually arriving at the scene of a crime he'd predicted. Her phone buzzed. A Slack message from Mr. Sterling. She stared at it. From Victor Sterling to #all-staff. Message. Good morning. I have been informed that the office thermostat may not be optimally calibrated. This will be addressed. Additionally, I will be joining the team for lunch today. Please advise me of any dietary requirements. Meg read it 3 times. Tom? Yeah? Has Mr. Sterling ever used Slack before? I didn't know he had an account. Neither did Meg, and she had set up every account on the system. She pulled up the admin panel. His profile had been created at 3:47 a.m. His profile picture was a formal portrait that appeared to have been painted in oil in the 1800s. She walked to the corner office, knocked on the open door. Mr. Sterling? He looked up. His eyes were dark. Normal dark, not amber. She remembered the stranger at the bar last night, who had also had dark eyes that weren't amber until they were, and pushed the thought away because it was 9 a.m. on a Monday and she had not yet finished her coffee. Miss Carver, good morning. He said it like he meant it. That was new. You sent a Slack message. I did. Your profile picture is an oil painting. He glanced at his screen. Is that not appropriate? It's from the 19th century. It's a very good likeness. Mr. Sterling, is everything all right? He leaned back in his chair, His hands were on the desk, still, always still. The ring caught the fluorescent light. "I've been thinking," he said, "about the office environment. You've filed how many maintenance requests regarding the temperature?" 17. 17. He said it the way someone says a number when they're realizing they should have paid attention 12 numbers ago. "I'd like to address that, and other concerns. I understand morale may be a factor I've underweighted." Meg opened her mouth, closed it. "You said underweighted, like morale is a line item. Is it not?" Behind her, through the glass walls, she could see 12 people pretending not to watch this conversation. Tom had his phone out and was clearly live texting someone. "I'll put together a list," she said carefully, "of things that might help." "You already have a list," he said, and something in the way he said it, casual, certain, like a man who already knew exactly what was on it, made the hair on her arms stand up. Prentice appeared at Meg's desk 40 minutes later. He was a thin man in his 50s, or at least he looked 50s, in the way that some people's faces seem to have been 50s for a suspiciously long time, with wire-rimmed glasses and the expression of someone who had just been handed a live grenade and was looking for a return address. "Ms. Carver?" "Prentice?" "Mr. Sterling has asked me to inform you that he will be attending the staff lunch today and would like you to order something appropriate." "Appropriate how?" He was unspecific. "Does Mr. Sterling have dietary requirements I should know about?" Prentice's left eye twitched. "Mr. Sterling will be having whatever the rest of the staff is having." "Prentice?" "Yes." "Mr. Sterling has never eaten food in this office. Mr. Sterling is expanding his repertoire." "His repertoire." "I have been asked to inform you, not to explain the decision. The decision is above my clearance, which is remarkable given that my clearance extends to matters that predate the formation of this company by several centuries." He paused, seemed to realize what he'd said. His eye twitched again. "The lunch," he said. "Please order it." "What kind?" Meg asked Prentice. "I beg your pardon?" "What kind of sandwiches? Does Mr. Sterling have a preference? Turkey? Ham? Vegetarian?" "Mr. Sterling has no preference because Mr. Sterling does not—" Prentice stopped himself. "Turkey. Turkey will be fine." "Turkey it is." "Ms. Carver." "Yes?" "If Mr. Sterling appears unaccustomed to the sandwich, please do not draw attention to it." "Why would I draw attention to a man eating a sandwich?" That is, regrettably, exactly the sort of question that answers itself in context. He straightened his glasses. "The sandwiches, please. And perhaps some napkins. Extra napkins." "Why extra napkins?" "Context, Ms. Carver. Context." The staff lunch was a disaster. "He's in the break room," Tom whispered, grabbing Meg's elbow. "He's sitting in the break room. In a chair." "People sit in chairs, Tom." "Not like this. He's sitting like he's never met a chair before. Like the chair is a diplomatic envoy from a country he doesn't trust." Someone had put a sandwich in front of him, turkey and Swiss on sourdough. "He's staring at it," Tom whispered. "He's been staring at it for 45 seconds. I've been timing." "Stop timing the CEO's sandwich interaction." "You time his blink rate." "That's different. That's documented." "You're not eating your sandwich," Meg said, louder, crossing to the table because apparently she had decided that self-preservation was for people with better survival instincts. "I'm savoring the anticipation." "It's a turkey sandwich. The anticipation peaks at about 3 seconds. He picked up the sandwich, held it. Meg watched his face do something complicated, a micro-expression sequence that went from determination to resignation to something that looked a lot like a man preparing for dental work. He took a bite. He chewed. His face did not change, which was somehow the most disturbing part, because a person's face changes when they eat. Pleasure, displeasure, the basic muscular response to flavor. Something should have moved. Nothing moved. He chewed with the mechanical precision of someone who had researched chewing. "Good?" asked an intern named Priya, who was either very brave or very new. "Extraordinary," Victor said, in a tone that conveyed he had been through wars, and this sandwich was worse. Under the table, he placed the chewed bite into a napkin with surgical precision. Meg saw it. Nobody else did. "Mr. Sterling," Meg said, "can I ask you a question?" "You may." "What does the sandwich taste like?" The entire break room went quiet. 11 employees stopped chewing simultaneously. "It tastes," Victor said, with the gravity of a man delivering a eulogy, "like bread. It tastes like bread, and something that may be turkey. Turkey and Swiss, on sourdough. I'm told sourdough has a distinctive flavor." "You're told? You don't know?" "I have a limited frame of reference regarding bread." "Everyone has a frame of reference regarding bread. Bread is civilization." "I predate several forms of civilization. Bread is newer than you'd think." 11 employees exchanged glances. Priya, the brave intern, leaned toward Tom. "Did he just say he predates civilization?" "He said bread is newer than you'd think," Tom whispered back. "Which is objectively wrong. Bread is like 10,000 years old." "I can hear you," Victor said, without turning his head. "And bread, as a leavened product, has only been reliably consistent since approximately the 17th century. Before that, it was an adventure." "An adventure," Meg said flatly. "An unpredictable one. Like this lunch. Precisely like this lunch." She was going to figure this man out if it killed her, which, given the direction of her last few weeks, seemed increasingly plausible. That evening, Meg sat at her desk after everyone else had gone. Her incident report file was open on her laptop. 23 entries, started 3 months into the job, because Meg Carver documented things the way other people breathed. She called her sister. "I need to read you something," Meg said, "and I need you to tell me I'm not insane." "You're not insane. What is it?" "It's my boss file." "Your boss file? Meg, you have a file on your boss?" "I have a file on everything. This one is... Listen. Entry 1, month 3. His office registers 59 degrees. HVAC says there's nothing wrong. He returned the space heater I bought him with a handwritten note that said, unnecessary, on cream-colored paper that smelled like old books. Weird, but not insane. Entry 7, month 5. He has never eaten food in the office. 5 months. No lunch, no coffee, no vending machine. He does drink something from a dark glass, but I can't confirm what it is. He's on a cleanse. A 14-month cleanse, sure. Entry 12. He referred to the 2008 financial crisis as recent, compared it to something from 1720, and then stopped talking. He's a history nerd. Entry 15. During a meeting, someone got a paper cut. I was looking at him. His eyes changed color, for 1 second, to amber, and then back. Her sister was quiet. Entry 19. His hands don't move during meetings. I've tracked this across 47 meetings. 0 fidgets. His fidget rate is literally 0. Meg, I know how it sounds. It sounds like you're building a case file on your boss. I'm building an observation log. There's a difference. Is there? Meg looked at the screen. 23 entries. The cold, the not eating, the not blinking, the eye flash, the 1720 reference, the stillness, the dark glass at 9 a.m. Something is wrong with him, she said. Not wrong bad, wrong impossible. And I'm the only person who's noticed. Meg, you're being dramatic about a weird boss. Everybody has a weird boss. Go home. You're probably right. I'm definitely right. And delete that file. You sound like a conspiracy podcast. She went home. She didn't sleep well. Chapter 3. The Glass. Tuesday was worse. Victor Sterling had apparently spent the night, if he slept, which Meg was no longer certain about, developing a comprehensive employee wellness initiative. It arrived at 7 a.m. as a 12-page PDF attached to a Slack message that read, "From Victor Sterling to #all-staff. Message. Please review the attached proposal for a Sterling Holdings well-being program. I welcome your feedback." The document was drafted with the assistance of Prentice, who wishes me to note that he was not consulted on sections 4 through 9 and bears no responsibility for their content. Meg opened the PDF on the train. Section 1. Temperature Regulation. The thermostat in Suite 14A will be raised to 68 degrees Fahrenheit during business hours. A handwritten annotation in the margin, scanned in. This will be uncomfortable, I am aware. Section 4. Staff Meal Program. A catered lunch will be provided daily. Mr. Sterling will attend weekly. Another annotation. I will bring my own sustenance. Section 7. Open Door Policy. Mr. Sterling's office door will remain open during business hours. Employees are encouraged to enter without knocking. Annotation. Prentice has expressed reservations about this section. Prentice's reservations are noted. Section 9. Eye Contact Protocol. Mr. Sterling commits to a natural blink frequency during meetings. No annotation. Just the line, sitting there, like a confession. Meg read Section 9 3 times. Then she read Section 11, which was titled Social Engagement Protocol, and stated, Mr. Sterling will ask one personal question per day to a randomly selected staff member. Questions will be non-invasive and seasonally appropriate. Suggested topics: weather, weekend plans, the concept of brunch. She texted Tom. Did you see Section 11? Tom. I saw Section 11. He asked me how my weekend was. Meg. What did you say? Tom. I said fine. He said, fine is not a weekend, Thomas. Fine is a temperature. Meg. His name for you is Thomas now? Tom. It's been Thomas since Monday. I've given up. She arrived at the office. The thermostat in Suite 14A read 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Victor Sterling was sitting at his desk in a cable-knit sweater over his shirt, looking like a man who had voluntarily walked into a furnace and was determined not to complain about it. You're wearing a sweater, Meg said from the doorway. I'm told they're warming. They are. Are you warm? I am enduring a temperature that I understand is considered comfortable by most people. A pause. It is not comfortable. You could just turn the thermostat back down. You filed 17 requests. You counted? I count everything, Ms. Carver. I also read the Section 9 commentary on Slack. Tom, asked me how my weekend was. I told him fine is not a weekend. He seemed disturbed. Fine is a temperature, though. You were right about that. I'm frequently right. It is not always well received. The Social Engagement Protocol, Section 11. Seasonally Appropriate Questions. Did you write that? Prentice wrote Sections 1 through 3. I wrote the remainder. You wrote a 12-page employee wellness document between midnight and 7 a.m. I don't sleep, Ms. Carver. The sentence landed like a brick through a window. He didn't seem to notice. She noticed. She noticed everything. Mr. Sterling. Yes? The ring you're wearing, is that a family piece? It's been in my family for some time. How much time? Enough time. I saw that ring on Friday night at the Langham Hotel bar, on a man who listened to me complain about my boss for an hour and didn't say a word. Ms. Carver. Were you at the Langham Hotel bar on Friday night? The silence that followed was the most eloquent silence Meg had ever experienced. It said everything and confessed nothing, and lasted exactly long enough for her to know the answer before he gave it. "I occasionally frequent hotel bars," he said. "They're quiet." "That's not a no." "It's not a yes." "That's also not a no." He looked at her. His eyes were dark brown. Normal. Definitely normal. Completely, absolutely, unremarkably normal. "Ms. Carver," he said, "did you need something?" She needed about 47 things, starting with an explanation for why her boss's hands looked exactly like the hands of the stranger she'd spent an hour telling her life story to, and ending with why his ring was the same ring, and why his voice was the same voice, and why the man she described as cold and inhuman and ancient was looking at her right now with an expression that contained, buried under 6 centuries of practiced composure, something that looked a lot like hope. "The sandwich order for Wednesday," she said. "Do you have a preference?" "I have no preference regarding sandwiches," he said. "I have never had a preference regarding sandwiches." "That tracks," Meg said, and left before her face could betray anything her mouth wasn't ready to say. That afternoon, Prentice appeared at her desk for the second time that day. He was carrying a small card. "Miss Carver, Mr. Sterling wishes to know if you have dinner plans." "Is he asking me to dinner?" "He is asking if you have dinner plans. These are, I am told, different questions." "Tell Mr. Sterling that I have dinner plans." "Do you, in fact, have dinner plans?" "I'm going to eat leftover pad thai alone on my couch while watching a documentary about cults. That counts." Prentice considered this. "I will relay your response in edited form." "Prentice." "Yes." "Has he ever asked anyone to dinner before?" "Mr. Sterling does not eat dinner. Mr. Sterling does not eat. This has been well established." "Then why is he asking about my dinner plans?" "I suspect, Miss Carver, that for the first time in the 60 years I have managed his social calendar, he is attempting to create one." He left. Meg stared at the card. It read, in Victor's handwriting, "The hotel bar is quiet on Wednesdays as well." She put the card in her desk drawer, next to the 17 maintenance request copies, next to the incident report file. She was building an archive of a man she didn't understand, and the archive was getting heavier. Wednesday evening, 11:47 p.m. Meg had left her keys again. This was becoming a pattern. She worked late, went home, realized she'd left her keys, came back. The building security knew her by sight. Steve waved her through without looking up from his phone. She took the elevator to 14. The office was dark, empty. The cleaning crew had finished hours ago. Except Suite 14A had light. Not overhead light, something softer, warmer. The desk lamp, maybe? Or, no, candlelight. There was candlelight in her boss's office at midnight. She walked toward the glass wall. The blinds were half drawn, which was new. He never drew the blinds. But through the gap she could see him. Victor Sterling was sitting at his desk, in the dark, by candlelight, and he was drinking from a glass that was not wine. It was thick, dark, almost black in the low light, but where the candle flame caught it, the liquid shifted. Not amber, not burgundy. Red. Deeply, unmistakably red. He drank slowly, deliberately, the way someone drinks something they need, not something they enjoy. His eyes were closed. When he opened them, they were amber. Not brown, amber. Full gold, catching the candlelight, inhuman and ancient and exactly what she'd seen during the paper cut meeting, and exactly what she'd seen at the bar when she'd been too tired and too wine-warm to process it. He set the glass down, ran his tongue along his lower lip, and then he went still. The kind of still she'd documented in 23 incident reports. The kind of still that wasn't calm, it was something holding itself in place. And he turned his head toward the glass wall. toward her. He could see her. Through the half-drawn blinds, in the dark hallway, 15 feet away. He could see her standing there with her hand on the wall, and her keys in the other hand, and her heart doing something it had never done in an office building at midnight. "Miss Carver," he said, through the glass, at a normal speaking volume, from 15 feet away, and she heard every syllable as clearly as if he'd been standing next to her. "Oh," she said. "Oh, no." She dropped her keys. They hit the floor with a sound like a verdict. He was at the glass wall before she could blink. He hadn't walked. He'd been at the desk, and then he was at the glass, and the space between had simply not happened. "Your heart rate," he said, very quietly, through the glass, "is concerning." "My heart rate is concerning? You just teleported across a room." "I didn't teleport. I moved quickly." "You moved impossibly." "Improbably, not impossibly. There is a distinction." "There is not a distinction when you're the one watching it happen at midnight in a dark office while you're drinking blood." He looked at the glass in his hand, back at her. His eyes were full amber now, no pretense. "You should come in," he said. "Or leave. But standing in the hallway is what?" "Difficult, for me, at this proximity, when you are elevated." "Elevated?" "Your pulse," he closed his eyes, took a breath he did not need. "Your pulse is making this conversation harder than it should be." "My pulse is making this hard for you?" "I am asking you, with the only politeness I have left at this hour, to please sit down somewhere before I do something I will have to send a handwritten apology for." She sat down, on the hallway floor, because his office had a door, and going through it felt like a decision she wasn't ready to make, and the hallway floor was neutral territory. He sat down on the other side of the glass wall. They sat there, separated by a 1/4 inch of glass, in the dark, on the floor, at midnight. Chapter 4. The File. They sat on the floor for 7 minutes. She timed it. Old habits. "How long have you known?" she asked, through the glass. "Known what?" "That I was noticing." "Since your 3rd week. You adjusted the thermostat 4 times in one afternoon, and then stood outside my door with a digital thermometer." "I was discreet about it." "You were holding the thermometer at arm's length like a sword." "I was being thorough." "You're the most thorough person I have ever employed, and I once employed a man whose job was to count the spoons in the household. For 40 years. Every morning, every spoon." "How many spoons?" 307. He never found a discrepancy. He was very satisfied. She almost laughed. Almost. But the glass of blood was still on his desk, and his eyes were still amber, and they were sitting on the floor of a dark office building at midnight, and laughter felt like it belonged to a version of this conversation she wasn't in yet. "I need to ask you things," she said, "and I need you to answer them." "Ask." She stood up. He stood up. He opened the office door, set the glass on the desk behind him with the careful precision of a man who knows what the liquid looks like, and what she now knows it is. "Don't tell me to sit down," she said before he could speak. "I'm not. It's a suggestion. For your comfort." "My comfort! My comfort!" She was shaking. Not from fear, from the adrenaline of being right. 14 months of incident reports, and she'd been right about all of it. The temperature, the not eating, the blink thing, the 1720 reference, the eyes. "Yes. The glass, what is that?" "I think you know what it is." "I need you to say it." He was quiet. His eyes were still amber. In the candlelight, his skin looked luminous. Not warm, never warm, but with a quality that fluorescent office lights had always flattened. This was what he looked like in his own element. Old and beautiful and very, very still. "Blood," he said. "It's blood." "Whose?" "Supplied. Ethically sourced. I have a medical arrangement that I will not explain further, except to say that no one is harmed. And you are? Yes. Say it. I've been alive for 612 years, Miss Carver. I've been called many things. The word you're looking for is vampire. Meg sat down, not because he told her to, because her knees made the decision without consulting the rest of her. The bar, she said, Friday night. That was you. Yes. You sat there and listened to me describe you to your face. Yes. Why? He moved to the window, stood with his back to the city. His silhouette was sharp against the glass, the skyline behind him small and lit and human, and him outlined against it, perfectly still. Because no one has described me accurately in approximately 200 years, he said. And you did it in 11 minutes with a glass of Cabernet and a list on your phone. That's not a reason. It's the only reason I have. He turned. His eyes had faded, dark again, nearly brown, only a rim of amber at the edges. You see things. You've been seeing things about me since your first week. The thermostat, the hands, the glass. No one else has noticed. Not in this building. Not in the 3 buildings before this one. Not in any of the identities I've maintained over the last century. And you walked into my office and filed a maintenance request. Because your office was cold. Because you are the most dangerously observant person I have ever employed. And I have employed people for 6 centuries. He said it simply, the way he said everything, like words were a finite resource and he'd learned to spend them carefully. 612, Meg said. You were alive during the Reformation. I was alive before the Reformation. The Reformation was, he paused, unpleasant. You know what's also unpleasant? Finding out your boss is a supernatural predator from a conversation on the floor of an office building. I imagine it's not ideal. It's not ideal. It's not in the employee handbook. There's nothing in orientation about what to do when your CEO is drinking blood at midnight and his eyes are doing a thing. What thing? The amber thing. The thing where they go gold. You're doing it right now. He looked away. When he looked back, his eyes were dark again. That is not entirely within my control. What triggers it? He was quiet for a moment. Proximity, blood, emotional intensity. And right now? Right now it is you. He said it simply, like a fact, like weather. Your pulse is fast, and you are angry, and you are close, and the combination is difficult. Should I leave? No. Too fast. He caught himself. No, but I wanted you to understand what you're seeing. Prentice knows, Meg said. It wasn't a question. Prentice is 300 years old. He manages the practical aspects. Diana Locke, also aware. How many people in this building are like you? 3. Myself, Prentice, and Diana. Everyone else is human, including you. Including me? Was that in question? Diana will want to discuss your situation. My situation? As if summoned, though later Meg would wonder if she'd actually been standing outside the door the entire time, Diana Locke appeared. She was tall, composed, impeccably dressed, and looked at Meg the way a security system looks at an unrecognized badge. Victor, Diana said, I heard everything. I assumed you would. Enhanced hearing, Meg muttered. Right, of course. Diana turned to her. Ms. Carver, I'm going to be direct. You have 23 incident reports documenting behavior that, in aggregate, constitutes evidence of Mr. Sterling's nature. Your continued employment in your current role presents an unacceptable security risk. Diana, Victor started. Your transfer to the Sydney office has been filed, effective Friday. Promotion, significant salary increase, relocation package. HR processed it this afternoon. I didn't wait for this conversation. It's not a punishment, it's protection. Meg felt the floor shift. Not filed, not recommended. Filed. Done. Without asking her. Without asking Victor. Already in the system. I'm not going to Sydney, Meg said. The paperwork is already. I'm not going to Sydney, Diana. I'm not going anywhere. I've spent 14 months doing my job in a building run by vampires, and I've done it well. And the fact that I noticed things nobody else noticed doesn't make me a risk. It makes me the only person on this staff who's actually paying attention. Diana looked at Victor. Victor looked at the candle. She's not wrong, he said. You keep saying that. Because she keeps being right. Diana's jaw tightened. Victor, we have spent 60 years building this cover. 60 years of documents, identities, medical records, shell companies. One incident report filed with the wrong agency. What agency? What agency do you file "my boss doesn't blink" with? Diana looked at her. You would be surprised, Ms. Carver, how many governments maintain quiet offices for exactly this category of concern. There's a government office for "my boss might be a vampire"? There are several. They are not as incompetent as popular culture suggests. Victor pinched the bridge of his nose. It was the most human gesture Meg had ever seen him make. Diana, she's not filing anything. She has 23 documents that constitute a pattern analysis a 14-year-old could interpret. The incident reports are on a local drive, Meg said, not the company server, not backed up to the cloud, not shared with anyone. They're mine. They've always been mine. I wasn't building a case. I was trying to understand why my boss was the way he was. The room was very quiet. The candle flickered. Victor Sterling stood at the window, outlined against the city, and did not move. I think, he said, that everyone should go home. Diana left, not happily. Meg stood up. Her keys were still on the floor in the hallway. She picked them up. Meg, Victor said. First name, first time. She stopped. I should have told you at the bar. Yeah, you should have. I didn't because you were the first person in 200 years who talked to me like I was just a man sitting next to her, and I wasn't ready to lose that. She looked at him. The amber was gone. His eyes were dark and tired. Actually tired, in a way that had nothing to do with sleep, and everything to do with the weight of being something that watches centuries pass and can't tell anyone about it. Good night, Mr. Sterling, she said. She went home. Her sister texted, Everything okay? Meg typed, My boss is a vampire. Deleted it. Typed, Long day, talk tomorrow. Her sister sent a heart emoji. She didn't sleep at all. Chapter 5. The Bar. 3 days passed. On Tuesday, the thermostat in Suite 14A read 59 degrees Fahrenheit. He'd turned it back down. The sweater was gone. His office door was closed. He did not send a Slack message. He did not say good morning to Steve, or Gerald, or whatever name he'd invented for the man this week. He sat in his cold office with his hands on his desk, and he did not look through the glass wall at her. Not once. Tom noticed. Is he reverse smiling? He's giving me space. He's giving you the Arctic. It's literally colder on this floor. On Wednesday morning, a cream-colored envelope appeared on her desk. No name on it. She opened it. Inside, on the heavy paper that smelled like old books and cold stone, 2 words in his handwriting. I'm sorry. Not, I'm sorry for being a vampire. Not, I'm sorry you found out. Just, I'm sorry. For the bar, for the listening, for the sitting in the dark and letting her talk without knowing what she was talking to. For every annotated inch of those 23 incident reports that proved he'd been paying attention to her paying attention to him and hadn't said a word. She put the note in her desk drawer. She didn't reply. On Thursday, the thermostat was at 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Halfway. He was trying. Meg came to work, did her job, filed no incident reports. Victor Sterling did not wear the sweater. He attended the Wednesday lunch and did not eat the sandwich, and did not pretend to eat the sandwich. And nobody asked him why, because Meg had, in a fit of efficiency that she would later describe as either genius or insanity, sent a Slack message to the team that read, "From Meg Carver to #all-staff. Message: Mr. Sterling has dietary restrictions that prevent him from eating during working hours. Please do not comment on this. It is a medical matter and it is private." Victor read the message, looked through the glass wall at her desk. She was staring at her monitor and pretending she hadn't just lied to 60 people to protect a vampire's cover, because she was, apparently, the kind of person who did that now. Prentice appeared at her desk at 3 p.m. on Thursday. "Miss Carver?" "Prentice." He placed a binder on her desk. It was thick, well-organized, and had a label on the spine that read, "Things We Don't Do in the Office, a Comprehensive Guide, 3rd edition." "What is this?" "Mr. Sterling asked me to provide you with context regarding the operational parameters of his public identity." Meg opened the binder. Page 1 was titled, Section 1, Eating. It read, "Mr. Sterling does not eat human food. When required to participate in meals, the following protocols apply. 1. Select foods that can be plausibly rearranged on a plate without being consumed. 2. If forced to take a bite, the napkin extraction method, see Appendix B, should be employed. 3. Under no circumstances should Mr. Sterling be served soup." "Under no circumstances should he be served soup," Meg read aloud. "The incident of 2014 is documented in Appendix C. I do not recommend reading it before lunch." She looked at Prentice, really looked at him. The wire-rimmed glasses, the face that had been 50s for exactly as long as a 300-year-old vampire's face would look 50s. "You've been doing this for a long time," she said. "I have been managing various iterations of Mr. Sterling's human world identity since 1743. "And nobody's ever noticed before? He's been running this company since, what, the 80s? "We retire the identity every 12 to 15 years. New name, new documents, same building. He has been his own nephew twice and his own grandson once." The grandson was a stretch. Prentice adjusted his glasses. One individual in 1919 noticed that Mr. Sterling did not age over a period of 9 years. The individual was reassigned. Reassigned? To a different continent, with a generous pension, and a very thorough non-disclosure agreement that predated the legal concept of non-disclosure agreements. "Prentice, yes? Am I being reassigned?" Something shifted in his face. Not a smile. Prentice, she was learning, did not do smiles, but something adjacent, an easing. "No, Miss Carver, you are not being reassigned. Mr. Sterling has made that extremely clear." "How clear?" "He informed Diana that if you were transferred, he would close the Sydney office. The entire Sydney office, which employs 214 people and has been operational since 1973. "He threatened to close a whole office?" "He did not threaten, he stated. Mr. Sterling does not threaten. He makes observations about what is going to happen, and then it happens. It's been a consistent pattern since approximately the War of the Roses." "Prentice." "Yes?" "Thank you. I am not the one you should be thanking, Miss Carver, but you are welcome." Friday, 6 p.m. Meg was the last person in the office, which was not unusual. What was unusual was that she'd received at 5:45 p.m. a manila envelope on her desk. No sender. Inside, her incident report file, all 23 entries, printed on cream-colored paper that smelled like old books and cold stone. Each entry had been annotated, in handwriting she now recognized. She read them aloud to no one, because she was alone, and because some things need to be heard to be believed. Entry 1, she read. You were correct. The temperature is not a malfunction. It is my natural ambient effect on enclosed spaces. I apologize for the 17 wasted maintenance requests. She turned the page. His natural ambient effect. He's literally making the room cold by being in it. I filed 17 requests about his metabolism. She kept reading. Entry 7. The dark glass is blood. You knew this. You are politely not saying so in this report, which I find characteristically professional of you. She put the page down. Characteristically professional. I was characteristically professional about blood. Entry 12. The mess of 1720 was the South Sea bubble. I lost a considerable amount of money. It still irritates me. She laughed, even though nothing about this should have been funny. It still irritates him. A 300-year-old financial loss still irritates him. Entry 15. My eyes do change color. It is a physiological response I cannot fully control. You are the only person in this century who has noticed at close range. This is not a compliment. It is a fact. She stared at that one for a long time. Entry 19. My hands don't move because movement is optional for someone who has been alive long enough to learn that stillness is more efficient. Your observation across 47 meetings is both flattering and slightly terrifying. Flattering and slightly terrifying, she said. Right back at you. At the bottom of the last page. These are yours. They were always yours. No one has read them. No one will read them. Diana has been instructed that your position, your reports, and your filing system are under my personal protection. You were right about everything except one thing. I am not emotionally unavailable. I am emotionally 600 years overdue, and I am not certain how to start. The bar is quiet on Fridays. She went to the bar. He was there. Same seat. Same suit, but no tie. The collar open, the sweater gone, looking more like himself than the office version of himself, which made sense because the office version was a performance, and this was the man underneath. Pale, still, dark-eyed, the ring on his finger. The candle on the bar reflecting in the amber that hadn't reached his irises yet. She sat down next to him. The bartender looked up, recognized her from Friday, and reached for the Cabernet without asking. You came back, Victor said. You wrote me a letter, on cream-colored paper. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice, Meg. Is that what you tell yourself? That I always have a choice? Because I've been choosing to notice you for 14 months, and you've been choosing to let me. He was quiet. The amber was there, at the edges. You annotated my incident reports. I did. By hand, on cream-colored paper. I don't own a printer. I've never owned a printer. Printers are... He stopped. I have opinions about printers that are not relevant. You have opinions about printers. I have opinions about most modern machinery. They are largely negative. Printers are the worst of it. They require drivers. I have been driving since horses. The concept of a driver for a machine that doesn't move remains personally offensive. Meg laughed. It came out before she could stop it, real and loud and surprised, and Victor Sterling's face did the thing where something cracked, just for a second, just at the edges, and underneath the 6 centuries of composure was a man who hadn't made someone laugh on purpose in a very long time, and was not entirely sure how to handle it. Don't, she said. Don't what? Don't look at me like that. Like what? Like I'm the first person who's laughed at your jokes in 200 years? He was quiet for a moment. His hand was on the bar, still, the ring catching light. 12, he said. What? 12 years. The last person who laughed at something I said was a barrister in Edinburgh in 2014. She thought I was joking about my age. I was not. She laughed anyway. He looked at his glass. She moved to Sydney. Was that Diana's doing? Diana is thorough. Diana is terrifying. Diana has kept me alive and hidden for 60 years. She is allowed to be terrifying. Meg looked at him, at his hands, which she now knew didn't move because he'd had 600 years to learn that stillness was more efficient. At his eyes, which were dark but carried amber at the edges like a warning light running low. At his mouth, which had tasted a turkey sandwich 2 days ago and survived. I have a question, she said.
You always have a question.
How long? He understood. She could see it in the way his stillness changed, not tighter, but deeper. The kind of still that meant something important was being held in place. Vampire, he said, very quietly. Human, she said. I know. So how long? As long as you'll let me sit here. He looked at her. The amber was there now, just at the edges, just enough to see. I don't have an answer that's longer than that. I've never had an answer that's longer than that. Every version of this that I've attempted in 6 centuries has ended with me sitting in a dark office at midnight, alone, and I have made my peace with that. I will not turn you. I will not ask you to become what I am. I will not outlive you gracefully, because there is nothing graceful about it. But I will sit here, if you let me, for as long as the bar is open. Meg was quiet. Then, and the blood thing? What about it? You drink from a supply, from a glass, in the dark, alone. Yes. Is that how it always has to be? He looked at her. The amber pulsed once, bright and sudden, and then he looked away. No, he said, very carefully. It doesn't always have to be. But not yet. Not yet. She nodded, put her hand on his. His skin was cold, 15 degrees Celsius. She'd measured it once with a kitchen thermometer she'd held against the edge of his desk when he wasn't looking, and she'd put that in an incident report too, and he'd probably read it, and he was probably never going to let her forget it. You measured my desk temperature, he said. You read that entry. I read every entry. You have very thorough documentation. If you ever need a career change, I could recommend archival work. I don't want archival work. I want you to fix the elevator music. It's been playing the same jazz loop since I started. That loop has been playing since 1987. Since 1987? I like jazz. You like jazz from 1987. I like jazz from 1740, but I've been told that isn't available in elevator format. She squeezed his hand. His fingers didn't move. They never did, but something in his posture shifted. The stillness softened. The held-in-place thing let go, just a little, just at the edges, and he exhaled. She realized she'd never heard him exhale before. You're breathing, she said. You told me it was creepy when I didn't. I told a stranger at a bar that my boss didn't breathe enough. I didn't know the stranger was the boss. And yet. He looked at their hands. His pale, hers warm. The temperature difference visible, her knuckles pink, his white. Here we are. Here we are. The bartender came by. Meg ordered a Cabernet. Victor ordered nothing. The bartender nodded and left. You never order anything, Meg said. I ordered a whiskey last Friday. I didn't drink it. Why order it? Because a man sitting alone at a bar without a drink is conspicuous. A man sitting alone at a bar with a drink is a customer. I have been a customer at various bars for 4 centuries. The whiskey is a prop. The prop has never let me down. Unlike people. He looked at her. The amber was there, warm at the edges, and something behind it that she was going to call hope, because she was the kind of person who documented things, and what she was seeing right now, in the flicker of the bar light, in the ghost of an expression on a face that had learned to be still, that was hope. Unlike people, he said. Until recently. The bar was quiet. The jazz loop played. Her hand was warm on his cold one, and for the first time in 612 years, Victor Sterling sat at a bar with someone who knew exactly what he was, and had chosen, very deliberately, to stay. Meg's phone buzzed, a Slack notification. From Prentice to Meg Carver, direct message. Message. For the record, Miss Carver, the soup incident of 2014 was not his fault. The waiter was insistent. Please do not let him tell you otherwise. She laughed again. He watched her laugh, and the amber in his eyes went full gold, just for a second, and he didn't look away. Meg. Yeah? The thermostat is still going to be a problem. I know. I will continue to make the office uncomfortably cold simply by existing in it. I'll bring a sweater. You would bring a sweater. I've filed 17 maintenance requests about you. A sweater is the least of my commitments. He almost smiled. Not quite. The corner of his mouth moved 1 millimeter. The same millimeter it had moved at this same bar, on this same seat, 5 days ago, when she'd been a stranger telling him everything he already knew about himself, and he'd been too undone to look away. Stay, he said. I'm staying. Stay anyway. She held his cold hand and drank her wine, and the jazz played and the bar was warm, and outside the city moved on without knowing that one of the oldest things in it was sitting in the half-light, being seen for the first time in 200 years, and trying very hard not to ruin it. He didn't ruin it. She didn't let him.